We bring in the former NFL offensive lineman, Ross Tucker, football podcast, Westwood One NFL analyst. He joins us on the program. Where do you want to start? What game, what issue, what concern do you want to focus in on first here, Ross?
Oh, man, Dan, there's a lot of different places we can go, but I do the Eagles preseason telecasts, and I do their pregame on the official pregame radio show. And I just got off being on WIP in Philadelphia, and they're not taking it real well, Dan. They're not real keen on ties in Philadelphia. I mean, look, I can tell you, I grew up there. Now, I seemingly played for every team other than the Eagles, but growing up there, I can tell you without any hesitation, because all my buddies were texting about it yesterday, they would much rather have tried to win the game and lost, whether it was trying the 64-yard field goal or going for it, than punt it away. They honestly would rather try to win and lose than tie. That's just the mentality. I don't know if that's right or wrong. We'll find out later on in the year, but that's how they feel.
You have the false start on the field goal, and then that takes you out of field goal range. And then on fourth down, you think Eagle fans wanted them to go for it, knowing, if they did try to kick that field goal, the Bengals would at least have a little bit of time and maybe try to win that game?
Yeah, so it's interesting because in the moment, Dan, I guess I kind of felt similarly to Doug Peterson. 19 seconds, 4th and 12 at your own 46-yard line or their 46-yard line. Obviously, they felt like it was too far for a field goal. But I remember thinking, wow, if they go for it and don't get it, Bengals have a great chance at a field goal here. So in the moment, I didn't hate Doug Peterson's decision. But then I started doing the math afterwards. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. They're at the Bengals 46. If they do some type of sprint out with Wentz, he throws the ball down the field, maybe you get pass interference, maybe you catch it. Even worst case scenario, it's incomplete. There's probably only 11 or 12 seconds left. And then the Bengals have to get a nice throw to even get in field goal range. And it's interesting because I was in Philadelphia right after Doug Peterson. I don't know if you guys saw this, but Doug Peterson's already said if he could do it over again, he would do it differently. He would have gone for it. And kind of working through the math and the situation, I agree with him. I think going for it, trying to get the first down and get out of bounds would have been the right move.
Do you like Joe Burrow's future or Carson Wentz's future?
Right now, I would say Joe Burrow. I mean, you're watching him yesterday. Burrow's a rookie with the worst offensive line in the NFL. Honestly, one of the worst offensive lines we've ever seen. I don't love his near-term future because I doubt he's going to make it through the season. I mean, he got smashed. 8 sacks. Yeah. He got hit 18 times. Malik Jackson almost took his head off. I just don't see how it's unconscionable to me how the Bengals would take Joe Burrow with the number 1 overall pick and then put him out there behind this offensive line. They are dreadful. But still, Dan, he looks like he knows what he's doing. I mean, he's accurate. He's calm, cool, and collected. I don't know what's happened to Carson Wentz. He's had 3 years in a row where he's thrown 7 picks for the whole season. He has 6 already this year. That's never been an issue for him. He's missing throws he shouldn't. Look, in his 5 years, including even his rookie year probably, this is the worst that Wentz has played. I don't really have an explanation for it. I don't know that anybody does.
Yeah, you start to look at this, and I always wonder, when I see these quarterbacks get selected high and they don't have a good offensive line, I go back to Andrew Luck. You can't have a $100 million investment and then pennies, for an offensive line, and it drove Andrew Luck out of the NFL. I see what's happening with Deshaun Watson in Houston, where he takes a ton of hits there, and that's my big concern with Joe Burrow as they move forward. You got to be able to bulk up that offensive line if you're going to protect your investment, or then why are you taking that quarterback number 1 overall? Russell Wilson feels like an overnight success after 10 years. What is it about Russell Wilson now that's different than Russell Wilson the last couple of years?
Yeah, well, so I've been consistent with this, Dan. I would say since about 2014, maybe 2015, I've said that if you could give me any quarterback for the next 10 years, it would be Russell Wilson. Isn't he? Wait a minute. Isn't he Russell Wilson Jr. the third?
Yes.
He's Russell Wilson Jr. the third now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, it would be Russell Wilson. He is almost perfect in terms of what he does both on and off the field, the way he carries himself. The big difference this year is I think that they know their defense is not very good, and they can't wait for the fourth quarter heroics and try to keep the game close until then. They need to let him go. The strength of the team is Russell Wilson and the receivers. So they're just letting him go. And it's unbelievable. Like on the good news, 14 touchdown passes in his first 3 games, NFL record. He's obviously the MVP front runner right now. The bad news is, Dan, they're still barely winning these games.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really a shame that Russell Wilson and the offense playing this well never matched up when they had that awesome defense. If you could have combined those two, you'd have one of the best teams ever. Unfortunately, right when they finally figure out they need to let Wilson go and let him do his thing, the defense is not very good.
What concerns do you have for the Cowboys?
Well, there's a bunch. Number one, their defense has not played well at all this year, which is a major problem. And then number two, their offensive line has been decimated by injuries, and that's what ended the game. I mean, I think Dak was going to have a chance to give them a chance to tie that game, but you've got undrafted tackles at both spots. I mean, you can't win that way, Dan. You can't. Look, I know I give credit to backups that go in there. That was my job a lot, but they've got guys out there that should not be playing. They had to move Zach Martin to right tackle yesterday because the kid they had out there was playing that poorly. It's just not a very good recipe for success. So you combine O-line injuries and O-line issues with a bad defense, not a winning formula for the Cowboys other than the fact they're in the NFC East, so they're in first place.
Talking to Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman, the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, and, of course, he does Westwood One NFL analyst. And Thursday night, you have Broncos-Jets. Now, when I look at the Jets here, I don't know how important this game is for Adam Gase. I don't know how secure his job is. I look at Dave Gettleman, the GM of the New York Giants. I don't know how secure his job is. And Dan Quinn, the Falcons head coach. If you're going to handicap how warm the seats are for those gentlemen, where would you start with the hottest?
It's Adam Gase. I mean, there were reports out over the weekend that they need to see something. And then they went out against the Colts and got embarrassed. Now they'll be in a standalone primetime game. It's the only game on. Everybody will be watching. At least some people will be watching. I don't know. It's a tough sell, Dan. Throw out the records when the Broncos and Jets meet on Thursday Night Football.
Why don't we throw out the Broncos and the Jets? Not their
Just
records.
listen to me and Ian Eagle call the game on the radio. But in all sincerity, it is September 28th, Dan. And I believe we already know that 2 head coaches are as good as gone. I mean, Adam Gase and Dan Quinn, they're done. It really is a matter of when, not if at this point. There's nothing. I mean, Adam Gase, what a disaster the Jets are. They're the worst team in pro football. And for the Falcons to blow those last 2 games like they did, he's not coming back from that. So I wouldn't be surprised if the ownership for those 2 teams already having meetings this week to try to figure out when the right time is to do this, because there's almost no conceivable realistic scenario I can conjure where Dan Quinn or Adam Gase are able to turn this around. And we might even have these guys get let go in the next few weeks. I mean, I would not be shocked if that happens.
But I'm watching the Jets. Sam Darnold did not look good at all, threw a couple of pick sixes. At some point, the Jets are going to have to, if they're bringing in a new coach, and that coach obviously wouldn't have drafted Sam Darnold, if they're in a position to take Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields, like, let's look at this maybe down the road with the Jets. If they're going to be this bad, are they going to be in the market for one of these 2 top quarterbacks? Have they seen enough of Sam Darnold to, A, give him that extension, or they move on from him?
Well, I definitely don't think they would give him an extension. I mean, I think the Jets are poised to have the number 1 overall pick in the draft at this point. And so Darnold, it's funny because you said, forget about Gase. Gase is done. Gase is done and dead in the water. Thursday night to me is about Darnold. I mean, the rest of the season is Darnold's chance to prove if the Jets have the number 1 overall pick that they shouldn't Josh Rosen him, right? They shouldn't get rid of him to get the next guy like the Arizona Cardinals did with Kyler Murray. But at this point, the way Darnold's played, and I know they don't have a lot around him, but even talking with Greg Cosell on the Ross Tucker podcast, he said Darnold's not playing well. I think that there's a very realistic chance that if the Jets have the number 1 overall pick, they take Trevor Lawrence and Darnold gets the same treatment that Josh Rosen did in Arizona.
Josh Allen's getting some MVP chatter here. How do you assess his game? Because he nearly lost that game with the Rams. He built up a big lead, but then he got sacked a couple times, fumbled, and they had to hold on for dear life. You all in on Josh Allen?
Well, I love him for a couple of different reasons. Number one, the Bills are the team I played the most for, so I have an affinity for him. But number two, Dan, he is probably the most entertaining quarterback in the NFL because it's either really good or really bad. I think he had 2 personal foul penalties yesterday. Has an NFL quarterback ever had 2 personal foul penalties before? I mean, he is must-see TV. And we joke about him being a roller coaster and the ups and downs. But the reality is this year, there's a lot more ups than there are downs. And that's what you want to see. Year 1, year 2, year 3, with every passing year, there's a lot more ups than there are downs. He's trending in the right direction, and so are the Bills. And in a couple of weeks, Dan, October 15th, I'll be there for Westwood 1. They host the Chiefs. So Chiefs-Buffalo Bills could be an epic matchup in a couple of weeks. I think we'll learn more about the Bills then.
More important game for the Chiefs tonight or the Ravens?
I would say the Ravens because they are the home team. They are favored. And I think the Ravens are going to win probably by double digits, Stan. I don't think you'll have many other people say that. I think the Ravens are nasty. I don't think they're just the best team in football. I think they're the best team in football by a decent amount. They destroyed Baker Mayfield week 1. They were smashing Deshaun Watson last week. Their defense is much improved with Calais Campbell. And then their run game, it's funny. I mean, I know I do the Army games on TV for CBS Sports Network. Going against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens running game, it's almost like playing against a service academy. They do so many new and unique things in the running game that these defenses aren't able to prepare for it. The scout team can't give them a good look. They get out there. They've never seen these blocking schemes before. They don't know where these guys are coming from. And oh, by the way, it's J.K. Dobbins and Ingram and Lamar Jackson running the football. I really believe the Ravens run the ball down the Chiefs' throat tonight. I think they get after Patrick Mahomes. I think the Ravens have a great chance to win this game by double digits.
Great to talk to you as always, Ross. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
That's Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman, Ross Tucker Football Podcast, Westwood 1 NFL analyst. What, Paulie?
So we're setting Ross up for the Zoom call.
Yeah.
And his head's so big, we had to ask him to move the computer back. He goes, I'm trying to move it back. He goes, you won't be able to hear me. He has the biggest noggin, and his head takes up the whole screen. It feels like one of those bubble cameras.
Oh.
Huge head.
Yeah.
Good guy.
There's that scene in Animal House when Flounder's face comes up on the screen. It's just so big. And when we zoom in with Ross, and then all of a sudden he zooms in and you go, because his computer is usually a little too close to him. He's got double duty next week. He's got Broncos Jets Thursday night.
Nice.
Abilene Christian at Army. That's on Saturday.